it's not always funny. Sometimes it gets really deep. And then there's the times where we're just a bunch of homeboys yucking it up, having a good time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
bottom line is that, just to cap off on, my woman today, she's clean and sober. She's got a couple weeks under her belt, and I love you, and thank you for coming back and being a part of the family. Not that she ever left anywhere, but you know where we go when we're loaded. We're half checked out. But
let's get back to Chad.
let's see. So I've done things in my initial recovery, that I was not proud of, and leading up to after some of these behaviors came out to me, mind you, this is now 2.5 years later, I'm still fighting this case. That my initial offer was 3 years. Yeah, the 3 years upstate was my initial offer. I got a really good lawyer. If anybody's in Southern California, make sure you hit up Allison Treasel if you ever get yourself into some shit. But she's a good woman too, and I actually still talk to her to this day. She got my charges reduced down to a county lit in Ventura. The only shitty part about that, when you're in Ventura County, you do your time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's Camp Snoopy, it's clean as a whistle, but you do your time. And I got sentenced, and it was for all the hard work that I did do in AA and, and helping others. Even though I didn't have God on board, I still participated heavy with others. I was a part of the San Fernando Valley Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was a part of their committee, and I was very heavily active and being a part of and giving back. And, so there were things in my initial, my recovery career that I did do right. But there was a lot of things that I did wrong. And the most important thing that I did wrong was that about 2 weeks before I had to remand for this county lid, they gave me a month to tie up all my loose ends. And about 2 weeks before I had to remand, I was out and about, and I ran into somebody I hadn't seen for like a decade. And he asked me, "Man, brother, what are you drinking?" And I said, "Whatever you are." And it was a wrap, it was a wrap from there. So I spent 2 weeks, numbing out, because I'm going to county. What's the use anyhow? I'm not going to be able to stir up too much shit in 2 weeks. Thank God I didn't. But I went and did my county lid. I did about 9 months out there, which to a lot of people such as Badger and whatnot, that is a very short time. But to somebody that hasn't done a lot of time, that's a long time. 9 months.
It is too long.
You know what I'm saying? But I tried to do the right thing when I was in there. I was trying to go back through the work, and I was trying to find out why I drank again. And the resentment of Ventura County never came to mind. You know what I mean? That, look at all the work I've done. Look at the man that I've become, and you're still going to put me away for a year. I never took a look at that, and this is now in this recovery that I was able to find that out. You know what I mean? So when I got out, even having been away for 9 months, like I said, Ventura County's Camp Snoopy, it's clean as a whistle, no tobacco, no nothing.
No horror stories?
Nothing, dude. I mean, a couple of, soft 23s, hard 23s in the day room cell, but, other than that, it was just pinochle and spreads.
23 means?
Pretty much a 23, rather soft. I mean, soft 23 means no face shots. Hard 23 is you're getting attacked for 23 seconds. The white boys, we follow under 23, which is the 23rd letter of the alphabet, which is W. And if you're getting broke off for 23 seconds by the white boys, it means that you're having disciplinary action. Depending on, what it is that you did, and even out there in Ventura County, we gave a hard 23 to somebody that, that got a couple soups from one of the black inmates. He got a hard 23 for that. You know what I mean? For interacting with, another race or receiving something from another race and not asking his own kind. We had to pay it back ×2, and then we broke dude off in the cell.
So the politics don't change from county to county, from, county jail to the state pen. They don't change in Southern California. They don't change in California. They're not the same in the East Coast and all these other places. So I just thought maybe you guys should know what the 23 meant, so that, I just like to keep you laced up. When you hear something in the future, you go, got his ass beat. You know, a hard 23, you just get stomped out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A soft 23, you have to make your bed for a week. I don't know.
Right.
So,
But, you know, fast forwarding, I get out, and the first thing I did when I got out, even though I only drank for 2 weeks and I had 9 months of a break, because there's no, you're dry, there's literally nothing, even if you wanted to get high, there's nothing to get high on in Ventura County.
damn.
I didn't see, for 9 months, I didn't see one lick of anything.
I got something like that, huh?
Nothing, dude, like that. And the first thing I did when I got out is I drank, and I actually kept it under cool for a good minute. For, you know, the first 6 months I was doing all right. I got out, I got an apartment, I got a job, not necessarily in that order. I got a job so I can get an apartment. But you know, I got back into my cooking career, and things started to take off. In the meantime, I'm drinking up a storm. And, you know, my last run for the last 2 years, you know, while I was out there, after I got out, the 2 years does not include the 9 months I was in, but the 2 years that I was out, all I did was drink and smoke a little bit of weed. You know, and the weed was more or less to come down on my 2 days off. I would smoke some weed on my Friday and try not to drink for 2 days and just smoke some weed so I can actually be refreshed for my next 5 days of work.
Right.
And that was kind of my vicious cycle, you know what I mean? And, you know, I got offered, you know, to take some pills and, you know, go back to my old ways, but, you know, that kick that I went through was absolutely terrifying, and I would never want to go back to that again. And it's a big part of the reason why I never went back to dope on my last run. You know, meth, I told my homeboy, I looked in the sky and told him I would never touch meth again, and I've stuck true to that. And as far as opiates go, I was too scared to kick. There's no way in hell I was going through 3 weeks of fucking misery to feel good for, you know,
You can call
a
it
while.
scared. I call it smart, bro.
Right.
Because I fucking dove into that fucking every single time.
It was so scary, it made me smart. I mean,
Right.
fuck, you know. But you know, it was just alcohol, and, you know, and I'll sit here and, you know, and tell you guys that you know, alcohol is fucking scary, man.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
Alcohol, it was a buildup over time, and alcohol took me to a worse place than drugs ever did. You know, even though people say, oh, because it's easily available. Well, when I was running and gunning with drugs, all my dope was easily accessible.
Right.
It was in my closet. I didn't even have to leave to go to the liquor store to get it.
Right.
It was in my closet. And, you know, so we could go back and forth on, you know, why it was that alcohol was so much more, but I can't even explain to you why alcohol was much worse for me than dope ever was. The bottom line is that it took me to a darker and scarier place than dope ever did. And it for the first time in my life, I literally, nobody wanted to talk to me. For the first time in my life, I was broke and had no money. First time in my life, I was so in the depths of things that I couldn't go to work because I had to have a pint just to feel better. Nobody would hire me because I couldn't go to a job interview, you know, doing this whole thing, or reeking of alcohol, you know what I mean, to beat the
Now's when you
shades.
throw open the cup so you can drink it.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I was homeless in Chatsworth for about a month. And then my Eskimo came through, and if you guys don't know what an Eskimo is, it's pretty much somebody that kind of shines the light on you and helps you get back on your feet when you're in your darkest days. And, you know, Adam, if you ever get to see this, forever grateful for you, my brother.
Respect.
And, you know, he brought me to his house. He detoxed me for a couple of days, enough to where I could actually sit on the edge of the bed and not have to slam, you know, a bunch of alcohol to feel better. You know, he kind of tapered me off some booze, allowed me to take a couple Xanax, and, you know, he was clean and sober in his household. But he's the one that chipped me off and kept the booze locked up. He worked right around the corner, so he'd come home and give me one shot on his lunch break. He'd allow me to take another shot when he came home from work. And the main reason was that I asked him one day, I said, why are you doing this? He goes, so you don't have a fucking seizure in my house.
For sure.
I was like, right on, dude, you know? But whatever it was, it worked. And then I got into Plan C, which is into action, sober living. I'm not sure if any other guys have talked about it.
Yeah.
But it's a very fundamental recovery group that actually is in 2 different cities. We got Antelope Valley and we got the San Fernando Valley out here in California, where these houses are at. I think we got a total of 5 houses now. And, at the time when I was there was only 3 houses, and they've actually been able to build and expand, which is absolutely amazing. Actually, there's 6 houses, not including the girls' house. But when I got to, the steps were presented to me in such a way, and there was actually a chain of events. I know I'm taking up a lot of time here, and I don't want you guys to get, bored with this. But here's where the power and the strength really starts to strive through. Here's where my story began. You know what I mean? This is where it gets good, so please hold on to your seat for a minute. If you want to know how it is that I live my life, this is where it's all about to come out. So I go to this meeting, when I'm still trying to figure out my life prior to me being homeless, and a man broke me off with the God concept that I was absolutely able to understand. I know in that moment I no longer was an agnostic, which means the literal breakdown of agnostic is without knowledge. And in that moment that this gentleman talked to me after a meeting, while I was still running and gunning at the tail end of my run, because I did want to get back into things, I just was not done yet. And when you're not done, you're not done. No matter how much I wanted to surround myself with people in AA and this and that, when I still would leave meetings and go get drunk, or pick up a bottle just to continue being well. You know what I mean? You could say that, you have to get well from opiates, but you have to get well from alcohol too. Sure. And, I never really even got drunk, dude, in the last year of me drinking. It was just to stay well and not be sick. And, I found God in this moment, and this is how my God lives here. My God does not live in 4 walls. My God does not live in the clouds. My God is nowhere. The God that I use for my recovery and to keep me happy, joyous, and free, it lives here in me, and ultimately it's my intuitive thought and decision of knowing the difference of right or wrong. That internal person that talks to you and says, don't do that because that's fucked up. You should probably go and do this. Or hold the door open for the little old lady. And these are actually little key things that I really do that are a big part of my recovery. And Badger even said it, and was talking about in the beginning, but it's altruism. It's doing something for another human being and not expecting a single thing in return other than just to see them possibly be in a better place than where they were before you helped them. Or even if it's just being a part of, just to be a part of, that's still altruism, being around people and, cracking the jokes that we do and just having that camaraderie and that laughter. But, back to recovery, I ran through the step work in a timely manner. I completed my 12 steps before I even took a 30-day chip. My stomach was still tossed up from the amount of drinking that I did when I had my first sponsee on board.
For sure.
It says in the book that when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And as I ran through the step work, I started to see this psychic change. My moral compass was becoming more engaged of the direction of good. And, what I found through the 12 steps of whatever anonymous, it's all based around the same thing. I participate in AA, NA, CA. I mean, I'm not a gambler, but if they wanted to know how I recovered, I would speak at a GA meeting. I really don't care. You know what I mean? Because I have a solution today. And my solution is asking my God, my gods, whatever, what would you have me be? What would you have me be? And the more I stay in tune with that, regardless if things are right, wrong, in between, indifferent, up, down, left, right, sideways, in front, behind, wherever, if I stay in tune with what would you have me be with this inner being, somehow, and I seek the answers, the more my life becomes great. So I went from homeless to not having anything, to not having anybody want anything to do with me, to finding a basis in recovery, finding a spiritual foundation, finding out how to engage and be a part of, and the results from that are absolutely amazing. I left that sober living to go run another sober living, and then from that sober living I got my own place. I drive a beautiful car, I have a beautiful daughter, I have a beautiful woman, and I have the best friends that a man like me could ever ask for. All my homeboys are knuckleheads. I got homeboys with their entire face tattooed. I got homeboys that have no tattoos. I got homeboys that have been to prison. I got homeboys that have graduated from CSUN and just, needed to figure out, how to not to stop drinking from all the partying they did with the fraternities or whatever. I got friends that are in all walks of life. Mostly it's people like me and Badger that are tattooed, that have lived a life of criminal activity, but we in no way, shape, or form are prejudiced to anyone. You know what I mean? And that's the beautiful part about the program.
Except trolls.
Except trolls. Sit on that one. No, and anybody that wants to hate on me, you could crack on me all you want, and you can ask any of my homeboys, dude. There's about nothing you can say that can even embarrass me. So, have at it. I'll let you deal with this man on that one. But, the bottom line is that, if you take a look at step 2, it says we came to believe. If you take a look at step 11, it says sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. So if you're looking at those two things, directly, step 2 came to believe, and then we sought through prayer and meditation to improve contact. That's telling me that the 12 steps are a guide to God. Whatever you have your God to be, it's a guide to God. It's a guide to inform you on how to live with God. And the way that we could do that is by giving it up to God, taking an inventory, telling another man our deepest, or woman, if you're a woman in the program, our deepest, darkest secrets. You know what I mean? My homeboys that I grew up with are all dead from murder and overdose. You know what I mean? 2 homeboys have been murdered, and 3 homeboys that I grew up with that I, miss deeply to this day, are dead from overdose or murder.